big drive from 5 riders back. It's going to be a tight one, but I think he'll do it. Goodness me, that'll be the photo. It's one Australian. Feel the rush as colours blur. Feel the rush and hear the blood. But he's done it. Wheels in motion.
Hello everybody and welcome to the start of the international cycling season, which by tradition this past 8 years has started right here in Adelaide, South Australia, with the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. This is a race over 5 days and almost 700 kilometres. Now until this year it was in fact a race over 6 days, but now the race has been upgraded and so the first day was a prelude rather than part of the tour itself. And tell you what, the weather here in South Australia was experiencing the hottest for 60 years. The riders were set to ride into the oven. Well, it all began with what was a small circuit race on the east end of Adelaide, a race of 50 kilometres, 25 laps of a 2 kilometre circuit. It was a chance for the riders to start racing again and getting used to each other for the long season ahead. Well, after Mike Rann, the Premier of South Australia, started the race, they were very quickly into the action. After only 5 laps, it was a clear sprint win for the Spanish rider Carlos Barredo, making his first visit to Australia. And that was the trend all day long, riders attacking one after another. And there was of course the ups and downs as well, 1 or 2 riders getting their first crash of the year in the bag. The crowds, as ever on this international cycle race, are big, and this crowd is estimated at about 70,000 spectators. So the sprinting went on. Russell Van Hout, the elite champion of Australia, had his share of the sprint wins, but when he came down to the big one, it's the famous name from Queensland, Robin McEwen. He's won 11 stages of the Tour Down Under, and here he was sharpening his legs again and getting ready for the race start proper 24 hours later. And this is what he had to say after he crossed the line.
Oh, it's fantastic. You know, I came out tonight, I wasn't quite sure how I was going to be, but I already felt when I went out riding this morning I wasn't too bad. When I warmed up before the race, I was actually doing the end of my warm-up, so I was so late to sign on. But I felt good, and I even had to go early in the race, got in a little break, but then sat back, waited, let my teammates and those of Alan Davis control things, and just took my position for the sprint, waited for the moment, and worked out just the way I love it.
Yes, Robin McEwen there is never happier than when he's winning. I'm now joined by Paul Sherwen, my co-commentator. Paul, Robbie's remarkable because he can win in January and he can still be winning in October.
Yeah, in the very competitive sport of professional cycling nowadays, those men are very rare who are competitive at the start of the season and can still pull out the wins in October.
All right, well, he's 11-time stage winner of the Tour Down Under, and that's where we're going now, the first stage of 5 days. Now, this is a race of almost 700 kilometres, bringing together 95 riders, in fact, because Nick Saunderson, a teammate of McEwen's, has taken ill overnight for day one. Paul, give us a few names you think might do well.
Well, you've got to think about the defending champion, Luis Leon Sanchez. The Spanish think he is a man for the future. Johan van Sommeren from Belgium, he was well up in the overall standings last year. And if you want to throw a couple of Aussie names into the bag, well, Cadel Evans, a teammate of Robin McEwen, finished 8th overall in the Tour de France last year. And the new kid on the block, Simon Gerrans, he also won the Herald Sun Tour last year.
There are in fact 7 top Pro Tour teams in this race coming in from Europe. They're going to get quite a shock with the weather, because if we'd have had this race last week it was nice and cool, rather like an English summer, but now it's like living in the desert here in South Australia. Let's go to the action of stage 1. 2 new towns here on the route. We're going to Mawson Lakes for the beginning. When we finish the day, will be a first time finish in Angaston. So the riders all set to go, 94 of them lining up now for 5 days of racing. The forecast is hot and getting hotter, and I don't just mean the weather.
No, it's going to be hot competition, especially on day one. 148 kilometres from Mawson Lakes all the way down to Angaston. The first time finish in that small town, which I think is getting itself ready for the arrival of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under.
And indeed a first time rollout from Mawson Lakes here, and a lovely crowd cheering the riders on their way. Well, we're out on course, a little bit of a neutralised section before we get underway, and then we'll be heading towards Gawler, where the first King of the Mountains awaits. Just a short little climb out of the town, and the wind for the moment isn't going to be that favourable, and we start on long straight highway, so we don't expect a particularly fast start as we make the left turn here.
And the road itself is rather difficult out on the open road because it's a very hard surface. It's the kind of surface that the riders find it very difficult to get a rolling effect on. But Robin McEwen looking pretty happy.
Yes, and talking to his old rival on the far side there, that's Tor Hushoff, who beat McEwen for the green jersey in the Tour de France this year. And having a chat with little Will Walker in the middle, who won the elite and the under-23 national titles just last weekend.
Yeah, just caught a glimpse of what, I should say, caught a little bit of what he was trying to say there. He was talking about Luis Sanchez, and that's probably the man he wants to keep a very close eye on today.
But look at this guy. Oh.
Hello, Jan. Good?
Good. Very. Salut. Salut. How are you? Yeah?
Yeah, really good.
Thank you. Are you?
Behave yourself.
So that was our French motorcycle pilot there, Patrice Diablo, meeting some old friends. He made friends with them way back in 1999 on the first Tour Down Under. Well, rolling away, still nobody too interested in breaking away. As we head now very early on the route this year into the Barossa Valley. We normally go 3 or 4 days in. Well, what we'll do is, as we watch the riders head out towards the open countryside on the road to Gorla, let's have a look at the route itself today. As I say, we're leaving Mawson Lakes now, heading to Angaston. First time finish, as Paul has said, in Angaston, 148 kilometres. And we start to climb pretty soon after the start today, heading through One Tree Hill and out towards Gorla. And there's the King of the Mountains as we head through then on to Sandy Creek. We keep on going towards Lyndoch and indeed Jacobs Creek itself, and then on through Sepetsfield, Marananga and the beautiful area of the Barossa before we go through Angaston, then a 48-kilometre circuit right around again, back through Nuriupta and back to the big finish in Angaston. Into the streets of Gorla, Robbie McEwen, who made this breakaway, has formed a big bunch around him. Right turn, we're on the climb.
Well, they're just 1 kilometre from the summit of the climb, and they're going round that corner full speed, not losing any momentum at all. And look at this acceleration.
Well, this looks like we're going to have a real race to the top. That's Robert McLaughlin there, who got all those riders for company. A very strong man. He was in the 1992 Barcelona Olympics. Took time out, come back as if he'd never been away from the sport, and he's driving for the summit of the climb. He's gone very, very early, Paul, and here comes the counter move from AG2R. Looks like Samuel Dumoulin who's having a go for the top. That would be a spy. Cadell Evans is going for him. Gene Bates as well, but I think Dumoulin is going to pull off, or is he? A late challenge by Cadell, not going to be good enough. First blood to the AG2R rider, Samuel Dumoulin.
Well, that was a very aggressive ride there. They come up to the top of that climb, and it was Dumoulin who gets himself maximum points in the King of the Mountains. This has been an unbelievable race from the very start. There's been attacks. The pressure has been on. We're in excess of 41 kilometres an hour average speed since the start of today. And you can see last year's winner there just coming to the back there, Luis Leon Sanchez, just trying to pull himself back into this race once more.
And the small rider there is Samuel Dumoulin, who is the King of the Mountains for tomorrow, the Loman and Panka leader. And this group is going to get on, but will they get on in time to witness the sprint in Nuriupta, because that's where we are now, approaching 93 kilometres. Winner will get 3 seconds bonus, second will take 2, and the third will take 1, and that's Simon Gerrans making a run for it. He's being chased by Colli of Leaky Gas, the rider from Italy who got third on the first sprint. It's going to be a tight one, but I don't think they're going to catch from this position. It's going to be a tight one. Now we can see it better, and on our left here it's Simon Gerrans just gets it ahead of Colli, and I think it was Gene Bates getting 1 second. So Gerrans has picked up 3 seconds there. And now he's looking to see just what is going on there, because they've split the breakaway yet again, and they have about 50 kilometres to go.
Robbie McEwen just at the back there, taking on board lots of drinks. It's very important on a day like this to take on board as much liquid as possible. In fact, Robbie McEwen is at the front of the group again, Phil, putting the pressure on once again.
Well, he's opened the gap too. He's pulled away. That's Sanchez. This time he's made no mistake. He's gone with the move first hand. And that is a good gap to go away, because these boys have been racing at an average of just on 42 kilometres an hour under very hot conditions. Now we've got here at Simon Gerrans going through. We've seen Luis Sanchez, last year's winner, Robbie McEwen, who won yesterday in Adelaide in that prologue event, and the other rider is the big surprise of the season, Will Walker from Victoria.
Well, I think this is a bit of a risky move, because we've still got quite a long way to go to the finish, but these guys are obviously decided this is the move. They want to put the pressure on. There's nobody shirking any of the work at all. They're all working equally at the front to keep the pressure on.
Well, these are perfect roads now. This is the chase group here, or what's left of them. They were at one stage 27 riders, then they split into 14. Now they've been reduced again. Well, McEwen has been great, but look at that now, and we're just coming up to the 5 kilometres to go, and that is Simon Gerrans who's taken his chance now. The others are good sprinters, and Gerrans decided he's not waiting for the spin, and look at this, they're talking to each other.
Well, McEwen was in the right place to move there. He was in the position to go straight onto the wheel of Gerrans, and I think he was trying to tell the other guys to pick it up and get the pace-making to pull this man back.
Well, rumour was already spreading amongst the following cars that Robbie McEwen was getting cramped because he was missing turns and shaking his legs. He's unwilling to chase. The other two have looked at him. Sanchez hasn't gone, and neither has Will Walker. It may be that Simon Gerrans has read this race to perfection, and he could well take out the stage. Now, the last big race he rode in Australia was in Victoria, the Sun Tour. He won that. That was at the end of last year. Here we are, and he's at it again. People are saying, and especially AG2R, this is the man for the future for Australia and for his French team.
Well, he's into the outskirts of town now. He's just starting to show that his pedal revs are a little bit more difficult. In fact, somebody's coming across the gap there. It looked like the dark blue jersey of Sanchez, but we are now into the final meters of this stage, Phil. I wonder if he can hold on.
Well, there's been a number of men of the race today. One of them has been Sanchez, the other's been Gerrans, and the other has indeed been McEwen. But can Gerrans hang on? That's McEwen in the distance as well. Sanchez, this is a final effort here, and it's uphill towards the line. And if Gerrans makes any mistake at all here, Sanchez will be on him.
He'll be right on him. He daren't even put his hands up in the air to salute the victory, because look how fast Sanchez is coming back, hugging the barriers. He's out of the saddle right now, but it's very, very close.
Well, Gerrans thinks he's got it, but watch out, because Sanchez is running right on top of him, and he doesn't make it. Another 50 metres, we might have had a different result, but that will give Simon Gerrans his first ever stage win in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under, and more importantly, Paul, it will give him the ochre jersey as leader.
Disappointed with how I went at the National Championship, so to come up and win today, I'm just over the moon.
Double glory because you take the overall lead as well.
Yeah, well, that's going to be tough to defend the overall lead for the rest of the week, but I've got a really strong team here. AG2R Prevalence teammates, great group of guys, and I'm sure they'll support me all the way.
Well, Simon Gerrans there, very popular rider here in Australia, and he rode his first Tour de France last year, and boy, has he improved. But now he's in the hot seat, only just getting over the line there ahead of the defending champion, Luis Sanchez, who almost caught him. And I reckon had we gone much further, he might have even passed him. But the first leader's jersey on the shoulder now of Simon Gerrans. We're on to day 2, a new start town in Stirling, which if you drive straight up the expressway is only about 20 minutes drive from the city of Adelaide. The first climb will come 17 kilometres in, and then we're bound for a popular finishing town of this race in Harndorf. Let's go back to the action.
3, 2, 1, away!
So they're on the way as they now face up to that first climb coming in about 17 kilometres. And boy, Paul, it is an absolute scorcher.
Yes, temperatures getting above 30 degrees Celsius and very much closer to 40 degrees Celsius, I should expect, by the end of the afternoon. But Robbie McEwen there looking very comfortable and relaxed, I think, after the little cramp he had towards the end of yesterday's stage. And he may well be looking for a fast start here. 800 metres of neutralised, pull in the neutralised flag, and I can be certain there's going to be some attacks coming right from the gun.
It's a downhill start here, in fact, as we rush now down the valley towards Echunga. By the way, the race winner last year, Leon Sanchez, he's got bandages on his wrist today because he's suffering from sunburn. He thinks that the sweat burnt off all his sun cream, and the sun copped it for him a couple of days ago. This is the route they face today, the second day of this 5-day race. Undulations as we go through the Adelaide Hills. Echunga comes early on, and then we head into Woodside, and then we start circuits once we get to Handor, 3 times around a somewhat 40-kilometre circuit, and as I say, in scorching conditions before the riders finally come to halt back in Harndorf. There's a huge crowd in Harndorf, and they're going to have a real fun day watching the riders go through time and time again.
Well, inside the last kilometre here, these guys are just looking over their shoulders. They've got a slight advantage over the front end of the main field, but we've had a first few kilometres of racing well in excess of 45 kilometres an hour. I think Russell Van Hout is going to take the 3 seconds time bonus there.
Well, if the road looks familiar to regular viewers of the Tour Down Under, we passed through Echunga last year and the scene of the National Championships of Australia here, so the crowd themselves, after the races passed through, will be treated to a women's race there this time around as we say goodbye on the climb here now. And watch out for Samuel Dumoulin, because he won yesterday the climb in Gawler and he's going to go for it again this time. This is the Loban and Pank climb, and it looks like a real tussle for the front here. He's wearing the leader's jersey. What better way to defend your lead in the Loban and Pank competition than to get the points on the line, which he does. And so that's maximum points for Dumoulin, Gene Bates, and I think it was Cadell Evans right up there in third.
The riders in this leading group, Phil, are really getting down to work.
Rider on the far left there, Mario Ertz, one of the most experienced men in the race here from Belgium, rides for De Vitamin Lotto. There's Davis driving through now. This is a very good breakaway. Not one rider in this leading group of 8 finished closer to the winner yesterday than 23 minutes. This is a perfect move for Simon Gerrans at the back. Well, Woodside will see us again in about 40 kilometres time when they enact another sprint, but for this one it's going to be Hilton Clark on the front as he goes over, Alan Davis in second, Mark Renshaw in third in the SA Lottery sprint there. No sprint at all, but ironically those are probably the 3 fastest sprinters in the race. There's a lot of Aussies going over to Europe and leaving the sun of South Australia behind them in the next few days after this race ends, and join their various teams around the world and hope that their final destination will be a ride in the Tour de France. There's those very light wheels here. These are the legs of Renshaw, and they're driving on nicely as you head up now deep into Woodside, the town which has been enjoying the spectacle for the last hour or so of the passage of the race.
Hilton Clark at the back in the dark blue and black jersey of Team Navigators from the United States of America. Alan Davis wearing number 2, just sitting at the back, just in the slipstream of his teammate there. A lot of communication goes on a day like this.
Just up the road the distance, and then 92 kilometres, this second sprint in Woodside is going to be just about as exciting as the first one, because they're not going to sprint. They're more content on keeping the lead and hopefully surviving to the end. Hilton Clark gets the 3 points for that, so he's at 6 on the day. Mario Ertz in second place.
Looking at this group here, man to watch out for be the Lotto rider there. He's a very good bike rider, won the Flèche Wallonne a couple of years ago, and this is Windmill Hill. A tough little climb. Acceleration coming here at the front. The man making that acceleration is Fabio Sabatini.
And there's another man making acceleration here with the colours of Australia. That's Paul Craig. He's chosen Windmill Hill to see what his chances are. He's gone. I'd love the camera to swing round and see if anybody has reacted to this. And as we pull back, they haven't. Now, they may not know Paul Craig like we do, Paul, but this man shouldn't be played around with. He's a good rider.
Very strong rider. He's been racing in Europe on a number of occasions, and I think this is a long way out to try and go for the victory, but you'll find a little bit of infighting in the group behind, because they're all a bit worried. They've been together in this breakaway for some time, and they'll think, well, we can pull him back when we want to, but to do that, they're going to have to get themselves organised.
A little bit of disorganisation here, because we're looking here at the Visconti at the front and saying, well, who's going to come and chase? Everybody's looking over the shoulder. Always a bad sign, because the boy up front has got his head down and he's going. Taking a drink there is the Navigators rider. Hilton Clark, now somebody's gone with a flyer that looks like number 2, and that is probably the most experienced man in the group here. Alan Davis is going to try and cross the gap alone.
Good time to go for it. We've almost got about 30 seconds between this group and the leading rider, Craig. Alan Davis here, he's ridden the Tour de France on 2 occasions, but he's ridden every one of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under since the inception back in 1999, and that might just be the help that Paul Craig needs at the front.
Well, cast your mind back almost 100 kilometres ago. Davis was the last man to cross the lone gap from the bunch to the leaders. Now he's trying to do the same again, this time from the breakaway to the lone leader. Paul Craig, though, wisely just keeping pressure on here, but he's still a long way to go, and there's still plenty of undulations. He probably knows by now as well that Alan Davis is right behind him.
Yeah, but just a little bit further back was the rest of the group. It's not very much more than 20 seconds. The advantage I think that Davis has got here, Phil, is he's got a teammate in that group behind who can act as a policeman. He can try and shut down any of the counter moves that come behind these 2 men.
So Davis now will need a couple of minutes to recover from that effort. Paul Craig wisely is just getting on with it. And now the flick of the right arm. That's the cyclist's indication to say, come on, give me a hand. And he's not wasting any time. Here he goes.
They both need to work together, need to build up on that advantage. It's still only hovering at around about the 20-second mark.
400 metres from the finish now. We've just gone inside now. Paul Craig has never won a stage of this race. He's been here before. Alan Davis has been to every one of these races. He's finished 9 times in the first 4. He's never won a stage. Surely this will be it, Paul, because he is the sprinter.
He's the sprinter, very experienced bike rider, won 4 races last year, 6th the year before that, and this is the move.
Well, he's gone. I don't think Paul will have the answer to that because Alan Davis has flown away. It's been a long time coming, but Davis has finally won a stage of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. Yes, after all of those times in the first 4, it's a win this time in Harndorf for him. And coming over the line in 3rd place too is his teammate Elodoy Sanchez. That's a great result for the new professional as well. The man of the day, though, is Alan Davis, and so too was his teammate. He was a big help as well.
You know, we had 2 in the break, the only team with 2 in the break, so you have to make the most of that advantage. And for a Neo Pro, he did pretty good, didn't he?
He did pretty good, but I tell you what, it must have been a sweet feeling to finally get a win at the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under.
Yeah, it was, mate. It was a sensational feeling. I've had a few wins overseas, but like, first one here in Australia for a long time, and you know, it's like to thank all the support I've had.
Hi, I'm Robbie McEwen from the Davidomon Lotto team here at the Tour Down Under. It's hot. It's damn hot. Stay inside and keep watching the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under.
Well, Alan Davis there, he should be used to the weather. After all, he does come from Queensland. But every day, the temperature getting higher and higher. And on the road to Yankalilla on day 3, it was to hit a new peak in excess of 40 degrees Celsius. And boy, did the riders know it. This was the longest stage of the race, 154 kilometres, as the riders left Strathalbyn.
It's Mark Renshaw on the start line, thinking about the possibility of getting himself a victory this afternoon. But I tell you, one thing's going to be very important for the riders to look out for today, and that is the temperature, because it's possibly going to touch 40 degrees Celsius here on the roads of South Australia this afternoon.
Another lovely crowd here. That's been the story of this week's Tour Down Under. The crowds are bigger than ever, not just in the towns, but also out on the route itself. And the weather bringing them out, because the forecast is hot, hot, getting hotter all week till the big finish in Adelaide. It's an undulating route, as the riders up front will find also a very hot one, very exposed as we go down the Fleurieu Peninsula, which is one of the lovely parts of South Australia. There's the countdown by race director Mike Turter. We'll take a look now at the 154 kilometres in detail as we head out towards Gula at 61 kilometres, where we have a special sprint. That's been a finished town in the past, through Mount Compass, past a very nice pie shop there, by the way, as we head down to Gula. Then we get on the undulations from Port Elliot through Victor Harbour, over Newland Hill. It's a nasty climb out of Victor Harbour. Then we race over the tops here. We'll see the ocean on both sides of the Fleurieu Peninsula as we drop down to the beach and the heat on the other side of the hills. A first time ever finish in Yankalilla, and a big crowd reported to be there. It's taken just 5 kilometres to get 11 men clear of the field by just over 3 minutes, and the AGR team, and there he is, Simon Goins, has got all of the boys in front, just riding steady. They're not allowing them to escape too far, but they don't want to catch them back at this stage of the race, do they?
They certainly don't. They're quite happy with the composition. There's a problem at the front here. One of the riders from Bouygues Telecom, the French rider, just pulling off the road there. I think that is Vincent Jérôme. It's a quick wheel change for him. In fact, not quite so quick, but there doesn't seem to be any panic on board.
Well, here we come charging down towards Goulwa now, so 60 kilometres in. There's the pedalling policeman on the left, keeping the crowd under control. Not that they need keeping under control. And this is the first sprint of the day. It looks like Becker is taking on Matthew Heyman, and Becker gets it. Heyman sits up, and I think Botcherov squeezed in between the two of them.
Don't know where Botcherov came from. Then he just came right up through the middle and managed to get himself in second place.
But look at the time gap there, Paul. 4 minutes 27 now as we leave Goulwa. So the peloton will be probably 2.5 to 3 kilometres now on the road behind this breakaway. Meanwhile, back at the front, the peloton are moving on and driving this race on very much indeed. Just sitting at the back there, Botcherov now. He's had a second overall at the end in this race. He's always had a good reputation here in the Tour Down Under, the Russian. And just behind him is Jose Rojas. I think of the two riders here from Liberty Seguros, he's been the one that's been yo-yoing a little bit off the back of the line, so he's struggling beneath the sun, I think.
Well, Rojas is also more of a sprinter compared to his teammate Barredo, who's a much more aggressive rider. He's a slightly built rider as well. Botcherov in the green there is a man to watch out for, because over the years this man has promised to be a very good stage race rider, although apart from his second place overall in the Tour Down Under here, he's never really confirmed in the big stage races of Europe.
Looking down at the line here, they are working well together. They know they have a chance here, especially as they've got a lead of 4 minutes, but they've also worked out the quality of the riders in this breakaway. And there's another launch of the attack here as we head up towards the sprint in Port Elliot. And it's a counter move, and Becker's gone, chased by Botcherov. He gets it. So maximum points for Becker, and I think he'll be the new leader in the SA Lotteries competition. 4 of them trying to climb clear. Boy, it's a bit of a grind, this climb, isn't it?
Botcherov at the back there, looking ready to pounce, waiting for the acceleration to come. It's caused a slight gap, but I don't think it's too much to worry about at the moment. This looks like Barredo coming across the gap, being very attentive. In fact, I think he's going to go straight past everybody.
He's got a new pair of legs on there as Alexander Botcherov. He's the Russian rider in green. It's a very mixed breakaway today, a number of nationalities represented. And they're still looking for the big orange banner across the road to signify the line.
I tell you what, this is a long 800 metres. It probably feels like 1.2 kilometres to Cadel Evans, because he feels as if he's been waiting attentively for the acceleration to come. But he's in a good place now. He's in second position behind Barredo, and the rest of the group has rejoined.
Barredo has ambitions here to try and break this breakaway up completely, but they've regrouped behind, and Powell's goes again now. Botcherov has launched for the finish, and this is going to be this is Cadel on the front. They're very similar colours to Chocolat Jap, but this is a huge effort. Cadel Evans knows victory in the Loban and Pank hill climb today will give him the new lead. So that's our first change of leadership since the race began 3 days ago. Botcherov second and Serge Powell's in third. Good ride by the Belgian.
Good ride by the Belgian, but it has caused a little bit of a split in that leading group of 11 riders. I don't think Cadel Evans will insist with this effort, because we're still an awful long way to go. You know, we've only done 86 kilometres of today's stage, which is 154 kilometres in total.
Well, at least we're over half distance, and we haven't seen any sign of the 2,500 be active riders yet, so they're making good progress, some 3 hours ahead of the peloton. While the breakaway of 11 continues to stay well clear. The gap at the moment, 4.5 minutes over the main pack of riders, again under the escort of the blue jerseys AG2R Prévoyance team, and the ochre jersey there of Gerrans sitting at the back of his team. Only the strongest will survive this one, and here he goes again. Carlos Barredo has launched another attack.
But right away, it looks like Becker's onto his wheel. There you can see Jerome coming up as well, and Cadel Evans being very attentive, just getting onto the back of the group. And in fact, 3 more riders are coming across. There's Botcherov, and of course Powell's the Belgian rider. But what this has done, this has eliminated at least 3 riders out of this group. In fact, it's also eliminated the teammate of Barredo, the man who was in there a little earlier, Jose Rosas.
Yes, he's been dropped as well, so Barredo's on his own. Oh, I didn't mean it quite that way, but he is on his own because he's gone straight off the front of the group.
This is a long way to go, a very brave move. He must feel quite confident. He's gone off the front again. He's had such bad luck, mechanical incident. Now he's gone on the attack once more, looks over his shoulder. If he looks over his other shoulder, he'll get a magnificent view of the sea to the left, and if he looks to the right, he'll also see the sea as well, because we're right down into the middle of this peninsula.
And we're now on the dizzy heights of the Floria Peninsula, heading towards Yankalilla, which fortunately is down the hill before we reach there. But on both sides now, he has the ocean around him as we jut out into the sea on the peninsula. This is the crowd attentive at the finish, and on the outskirts of town is coming Carlos Barrido. What a great piece of riding from this rider. He never looked like being caught. 2 days straight now, a rider from Liberty Seguros is going to take out the stage. Yesterday it was team captain Alan Davis. Today it is Barrido. This is a man who's only ever won one race in his life, and that was 2 years ago. It was the third stage of the Tour of the Asturias. And I think you told me, Paul, that's the wettest part of Spain. What a difference today.
Absolute chalk and cheese. It is the wettest part of Spain, but this is probably the hottest part of the whole world here this afternoon, over 40 degrees Celsius. What a win from the man from Spain.
Well, he's still only 24.5 years of age, Barrido, a long, long career in front of him. This is going to be his best ever victory, and he's going to keep the flag flying for the team which dominated this race last year.
Status quo still since the very first day, but tomorrow is going to be a big showdown when we get into Wollonga.
Yeah, that's right. We knew from day one that Saturday was going to be the big decider. So we're in a good position. I'm still 7 seconds up, and I think it's better than being 7 seconds behind, so we're in a good spot.
You worried about the climb tomorrow? It's going to be an all-out attack. Everybody knows it.
Yeah. It's going to be flat out up that climb, and it's going to be the fastest up the climb and the quickest down the other side. It'll win the race, I think, so we'll be there and giving everything.
Well, after 3 days of racing, Simon Gerrans couldn't have wished for a better format of tactics, because the win by Barrido did nothing to alter the overall classification. He'd lost too much time already. So these were the standings. They hadn't changed, in fact, since the first day victory by Gerrans, but he was still only a few seconds ahead of Luis Sanchez. And in third place, the sprinter Robbie McEwen. Perhaps was he looking for the overall win here this time? And two more Australians known to be strong, Will Walker, the under-23 champion, and indeed Gene Bates, who has won that under-23 title twice here before in the Tour Down Under. So it's back to the open highway, the race remaining on the Florida Peninsula, and they were basing themselves in Wollonga. Now, for those riders who've been here before, they knew this circuit, but what they had never experienced was the hottest day in South Australia, in this part of the world, for 62 years. It was an absolute roaster, and the big sting in the tail, the climb of Wollonga Hill. If Sanchez was going to win this race, he had to make his move here. Let's go to the action. Well, everybody seems to know what they have to do. The question is, do they have the legs to do it? And they all must feel a little bit worried about the blue skies and the hot sun today.
Well, there's a hot wind as well, and temperatures today are going to go over 40 degrees Celsius out on the road, and possibly the tarmac itself will reflect up, approaching 50 degrees Celsius. That's a hot one.
And the start being given there by Patrick Jonker, who was an Australian in his final race when he won it a couple of years ago, and what a popular victory that was for the South Australian. Well, they roll out the regulars in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under know this circuit. They know the pain is saved till the end, and they know the heat is going to stay with them all day. And they're going to have to ride along Aldinga Beach, and the crowds there, as always, are packing. So it's going to be a lovely day out today.
I think a bit sad because they get a chance to look over their shoulders and see the beach, which will be very welcoming and beckoning, I would say, on a day like this afternoon. I know where I would rather be, definitely not on a bike.
Well, Mike Turter out of the car, the race director himself, a 1984 Olympic gold medalist. He'll have that route shut in a moment. The AC will be going, and the riders will be in the furnace. There's the flag, it's in, the race is on. This is a very nervous day today. Let's have a look at the route. The Wollonga Circuit race, it's stage 4 of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. It's 147 kilometres. We do 3 circuits that's based around Aldinga Beach and takes us back into Wollonga via McLaren's Vale. And once we've covered that 3 times, we have a short 20-kilometre circuit that goes over the big mountain of Wollonga Hill, then plunges back down to the finish in Wollonga. And that's surely where Sanchez, if he's going to win, must make his move. Well, this is a group that slipped away. The field cannot be more than 100 metres behind, but this is a huge group that's suddenly come around those 3 riders.
Another Lotto rider getting in there as well, former Australian national champion Nick Gates. You can see him there in the red and blue, red, black and white jersey of Team Lotto. And locked a little bit further back, you can see these 2 men wanting to stay very close together today. Number 1, the defending champion Sanchez, and of course Simon Gerrans in the ochre jersey of Leadership.
Well, Gerrans won't worry too much by this move yet, because these riders do not affect the destiny of that ochre jersey. He's just going to watch people like Sanchez, Will Walker, Robbie McEwen, Gene Bates. They're the men he'll keep a close eye on. This is Nick Gates, a teammate of Robbie McEwen, who's driving at the front up this little climb. But there is a gap. It's beginning to look very useful here. Into the crowd, and there's a big one here on Aldinga Beach. They love this area in the summer in South Australia. It is a beautiful area, a lovely part to have some fun, but for the riders it means the opening sprint of the day, a small time bonus. No big action there. Martias takes the preem. There's Geraint. He must be feeling a little bit concerned, and Sanchez never far from him behind.
Well, he's a man who knows how to lead bike races. He won the Herald Sun Tour at the end of last year, so he's been in this situation before, and he seems to be handling the pressure very well, as is his team.
And this is the nice view of a bike race, sitting on the deck chairs. The poor boys out there will be drinking something like 8 to 10 litres of fluid today. We're back onto Aldinga Beach. That 1 kilometre sign there is for the special sprint at Snapper Point. That's for the points competition. The gap is coming down. The chase is having an effect.
That's 2 minutes almost been slashed off that advantage. Now they will realise this, and the riders who are starting to feel a bit weary in this group will start to go to the back and start missing turns. Van Someren at the front is the man who seems to be trying to whip up the pacemaking as they come into the sprint point here.
Well, motorbike there, the South Australia Police Service. What a great job they've done on guiding these riders around South Australia these past 4 days. As they drive the race through, it's Glenn Chadwick ahead of the champion of Australia, Russell Van Hout, going over the points line there. Little rear view mirror here, and it's the French team of AG2R. They have been well in the service of the ochre jersey of Geraint for the last 3 days. Today, for them, is no exception. They're doing great. 3 minutes the spread to the main chasers behind. That's an important time mark. It means no one here is now in the lead on time in this race.
But Craig on the front of this group, Phil, is doing a magnificent job, and he could be setting this up for Russell Van Hout, because if these guys can go over the top with a 15 or 20 second advantage, they've got a very good chance of going clear. But in fact, Paul Craig is going clear himself.
And they're still showing 3 minutes. Craig has gone. Van Hout, his teammate, has answered it, and so too has the teenager Matthew Lloyd. They've left the other more experienced riders in their slipstream. They do know the climb. Most of all, of course, the South Australian Russell Hout. That is a superb move by 2 riders on the Uni SA team. And if they keep this up, they're going to take over the team lead in the race as well. 400 metres from the top of the Wollonga Hill. Remember, the big battle as to who leads this race tonight is still to come up the climb. But who's going to win the stage? And we have 2 riders clear now on the same Uni SA squad. And they're stitching up the team race doing this.
This is a big advantage to have a teammate in the breakaway with you, because you know you're not going to hold anything back and think about the individual victory at the end of the day, because it's 2 men working together to success of this breakaway. They're going to lead over the top of the King of the Mountains, but it's a long, hard ride down the descent to the finish.
Over the top they go, and it's Van Hout ahead of his teammate Craig, who takes the Loman and Pank King of the Mountains points there. Cadell Evans will still lead in that competition, but the race now is on for the stage win.
This is at the front of the race. Look at this for a speed, 60 kilometers an hour on the descent, and they haven't yet started to tip down towards the valley. Both of these riders riding for the same team, Team Uni SA, working very well together. Van Hout's face there, Phil, is a picture of agony, but I think the agony is something that he's enjoying here this afternoon, because he's racing in front of home crowds. Well, there's a big battle going on behind. These are the chasers. They're still hovering at around about 28, 29 seconds, and I think Van Someren is looking for some help here, putting his hand in the air. He's gesticulating to the others, come through, keep chasing. We can pull these guys back. Let's not throw the stage away.
Now this is Matthew Lloyd here, who's coming down. He seems to have got away from the other ride. He's got a throw completely, and he's hit the wall, and he's gone down. Now that is a terrible crash. Matthew Lloyd there, completely stunned. He's on the descent. He must have fallen there, Paul, at about 70 kilometres an hour. Oh, dear me.
I think, you know, I think he suffered from dehydration here. He's gone down very hard indeed, but he did get his head up, so I think he will be okay.
Well, back down below now, somewhere ahead of Matthew Lloyd, and that was really sad for the teenager doing the ride of his life today. The 2 leaders are in town. The line is 200 metres away. Now it's visions of last year when there were 2 riders from Liberty Seguros coming home. Today it's 2 riders from Uni SA. I think Van Hout will want to take it out. He is the champion of Australia. He is the leader of the squad. It looks as though Paul Craig is not going to take him on. Van Hout searches for the hand of Craig. They salute the crowd together. Van Hout will get his first ever stage win, but this was a tandem victory. They both deserve the first place.
Yes, it's always sad in a situation like that because only one man can go across the line in first place. On this occasion, it was Van Hout.
Well, as we see them finish here in slow motion, let's go down and hear what Paul says to Russell Van Hout.
Well, Russell, a lot of pressure, local boy, and a very hard day today, but it was sweet to get up that hill in first place.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know, that's a dream come true in front of all my fans, family, all the people that have helped me all the way. You know, it was a hard day the whole day in that breakaway, and to have a teammate to finish with 1-2, what more could you ask for?
Simon Guerin still holding that 7 seconds advantage over Sanchez, and with 1 day to go, things were looking good. Now Matthew Lloyd, who made that spectacular crash coming down Wollonga Hill, it transpired he lost consciousness due to the heat, and when he woke up he said he didn't remember not only the crash, but he also didn't remember even starting the day's racing. Well, the 19-year-old is fine, a few cuts and bruises, and he went to hospital overnight where they started a rehydration programme on him. Back to the action now. We're in the centre of Adelaide for the traditional final stage around the Oval Cricket Stadium. And it's here where Simon Guerin now wasn't going to let Sanchez out of his sight because there were 12 seconds in time bonuses up for grabs. He couldn't afford to let him out of his sight, could he? Back to the action. Jimmy Jakes and Minister of Tourism there, Jane Lomax-Smith, sending them off on the final stage today. It's 18 laps. It comes up for a total of just over 80 kilometres. And for this, it's going to be, we hope, a lap of honour for Simon Guerin. He's been a great leader from day one. He's used a strong French team to control this race wherever possible when they've attacked him. But now he's got to be vigilant, and he starts on the front. Little gentle roll away. It won't be like that when they come round this corner next time. They run down the back straight there. 7 small seconds separating Sanchez from what would have been the first ever cyclist to do the double, and he still hasn't lost all hope yet. I'm sure we'll see him attack. Out on the course today, there are 2 3-second bonuses for winning the sprints. There's also a 6-second bonus for winning the day. So you see it is possible for Sanchez to get that time back. As we make our way around, and there's where we are. We start and finish in King William Road, hairpin at the top and run away from Adelaide Centre, down War Memorial Drive into Montefiore Road, little hill here where we'll fight out the remainder of the King of the Mountains along Pennington Terrace, then a left turn to Edwin Smith Avenue and swing right round back into Memorial Drive, round the University Oval. Turn left, you'll see the finish, and under the banner we come. It's just on 4.5 kilometres, that circuit. It's one we've always used. Just thinking about the fact that this sprint coming up does count towards the points jersey and being worn today by Russell Van Hout, who is also a part of the Uni SA team, I would expect both the boys in those white jerseys down there to go for these points just to stop anybody else getting them. If Paolini picks them up, wins the stage and takes both the sprints, he's going to challenge Van Hout for that jersey.
Just be careful when you let a little gap go like that, because when you're under pressure and a gap appears in front of you, well, I'll tell you what, it's very difficult to close it down. So don't mess about, boys. And I think they're trying to take Barredo out.
And look at this, as they try to move Barredo off the back. Sean Sullivan, quite rightly, is going to save those points if he can get them, because he doesn't want Paolini to take any points that could endanger Van Hout's lead in the competition. This is a fine piece of thinking by Sean Sullivan from Tasmania, and they're not going to touch him. He'll get the 3 points available on the line as he runs up. 3 seconds rather, and 6 points available on the line as he comes up. Just keep the pressure on a little bit. They've regrouped behind as well, and here comes the other one now, trying to make it a UniSA 1-2. What a good piece of riding.
Excellent piece of riding. Of course, the other man they were worried about was Barredo, because he would have a lot of points too, being a man who's won himself a stage victory in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under this year, so they get themselves 1 and 2. Look at that move there. At the front here, Sean Sullivan cruises up to get himself the maximum point, and then just holding back there, we see that Matty Hayman got himself second over the line, squashing both Paolini and Barredo to the back of the pack.
We're just trying to get a glimpse of Guerin's face to see if he's under any sort of pressure. I don't think he is just now, personally.
Well, theoretically, Phil, the way he's ridden all week, he shouldn't be under any pressure at all. The biggest pressure he had yesterday was the last 500 metres to the summit of Old Wollonga Hill, and he did very well there. We're looking now at these riders approaching the KOM. It's actually, let's not forget, rather a good day for Cadell Evans as well, because he had just a 4-point advantage in the King of the Mountains classification. With a breakaway off the front like this, he doesn't really have to do too much to defend that lead.
No, that's a good news for him. The Lowman and Pank King of the Mountains competition. Evans has won it before, and he's queuing himself up to win it again, but he could lose it today. He's in close competition, but the riders he's in close competition with are not in this group, so the points are going away, and these boys can't get enough to catch Cadell. So it's good news all round, and this is why they're surviving out there, because the riders aren't chasing that hard to bring them down. There it is. Paolini goes over the top, followed by Matthew Hayman and Bedrogi in that order.
Paolini's
and
gone.
Paolini, who started the trouble, and the discussions had enough. The old Italian temperament shining through it as he started to use the top of Montefiore Hill to go it alone and show them just how good a bike rider he really is. One of the big boys in Italian cycling. Paolini now is going to try and make this a very long sprint indeed. And you can see there Matthew Hayman squeezing the radio microphone on his chest, and he's talking back to the team car now. He needs instructions as to what to do here about the escape of Paolini.
I could give him instructions. Bridge to engine room, more power. That's what he needs just now to try and pull back Luca Paolini. Sean Sullivan grimacing on the front here for UniSA.
Well, there's no doubt who's going to win the 6 points and the 3 seconds time bonus this time around. It's Luca Paolini.
Yeah, but check the gap, Phil. Look at the gap that this man is opening up behind, because when we pull back here, we're able to see that he's got around about 300 metres advantage over those guys. They're all working to try and pull him back. Now, there's a reaction there, and I'm sure that is coming from Barredo.
Well, that is also going to be a lesson for the boys from Australia, if it is, and it's Barredo on the left, and they've caught the 2 UniSA riders at the back, and that's what they wanted to do. It was a little bit of professionalism, I think, there. It's Bedrogi who goes over in second place. Barredo gets third.
And I tell you what, Phil, just check out his number. It's your favourite number, number 51.
And the reason is because the riders wearing that number, which they have no say in when they're awarded such a number in a race, has won the Tour de France more times than any other number, except, of course, number 1, which is always worn by the defending champion. So he's got a good number, he's got a good reputation.
Well, the advantage that he's got now is he's riding on his own, he's riding over the last few laps, and he's riding with his legs pumped up with absolute anger. His advantage over the main field is just 32 seconds. It's not a lot, but with a lone leader, they may well turn the gas off just a fraction over the last lap and miscalculate.
As we look at the faces of some of those riders, they'll be glad when they roll to a final halt. There's the little bit of switching around and jumping in the distance on the bottom of Montefiore, but Luca Paolini has shown us he's got to like this climb, and he's climbed it now 15 times today, so it'll become like a mountain at this stage. As we look down, this is the final climb in the Lowman and Pank King of the Mountains competition. He will get the necessary points, as there is a reaction behind, and they've got rid of Hayman, because now it's the Liberty Seguros rider Barredo who is trying to reach Luca Paolini.
And look at the speed that he's come across that gap. Carlos Barredo, 24 years of age, he certainly is going to be a star of the future. I've got to tell you, Phil, I've seen this happen a number of times before. Matty Hayman was worked over there. He annoyed the other riders in the leading breakaway with him, so they worked him over, they attacked him one at a time, and they've done anything they can to get rid of him from this group. You don't see it very often, but when you see it work, it's perfect.
It was, and I think it was a bonus that got rid of Bedrogi as well, caught out in the crossfire, I think. But that peloton is not that far behind, Paul. That's less than 30 seconds now as they've come over the summit. As they start to snake their way up now, they're all going to get very, very nervous. This, don't forget, is the final lap of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. Winner takes all at the end on the stage at least, while Simon Gerrans will take the big honours as a final winner. McEwen has won this stage 3 times. None of the other winners are even in the race. This is going to be a shoulder-to-shoulder here. The Americans think they might have the answer. Vasily Davydenko is a Russian rider who can deliver some killer sprints. He wins an awful lot in the United States. It is going to be a difficult one for McEwen now. They're not giving him an easy ride. He's going to have to come from 5th wheel back here. It's a long, long lead out. Jan Kirsipuu is also trying to come into the action. Kirsipuu has never won a stage. He's been here to every tour, but he's gone out of it. McEwen is holding on to the wheels here as best he can. It is going to be McEwen against Hushoff as they break for the line now. Is Robbie McEwen going to win for the 4th time? Yes, he's coming through with all the wheels. A desperate finish, and it is a photo. It is a photo, but it looks as though Alan Davis has taken McEwen right on the line. Well, that was a sprint and a half, and McEwen isn't contesting that. He is going to acknowledge the victor of the day is Alan Davis. He has got 2 stage wins this week in the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. The other one came at Harndorf when he beat Paul Craig after a breakaway, but just look at this again now. McEwen did everything right. He had a rough ride, I know, with losing his team as he's on the line. Davis, well, for my odds, yes. And I think the fact that McEwen immediately congratulated Alan Davis has conceded straight away. He's been beaten on the line. That's Hushoff over to the right here as well. And I think it's Davydenko trying to squeeze through on the left of our picture. Let's look at the line. As it comes up, it looks pretty clear to me. Alan Davis, who's ridden this race since inception. Until this week, he'd finished in the first 4 on these daily stages. On 9 occasions, he broke that and finally won in Harndorf, and now all of a sudden, he's on the leaderboard with 2 stage wins this week.
Well, Simon, a few nervous moments over the few final laps there, but finally, the ochre jersey's yours.
Yeah, I'm just absolutely wrapped. I can't believe that I've held the lead from the first stage right through to today. That's just an incredible feeling.
The team have done a marvellous job over the last few days. I wondered a little bit tactically yesterday if you'd made a mistake, but the team did it right again.
Yeah, that's right. My AG2R Prevalence teammates have just rode an absolutely fantastic race. They've backed me since the first day. They've protected me every stage, and yeah, there's no way I could have done it without them.
So Simon Gerrans now on the honours board in this 8th edition of the Jacobs Creek Tour Down Under. He joins the other great Australians, Stuart O'Grady, who's won it twice, Michael Rogers and Patty Yonker. Paul, it's not just Gerrans though, there's some good young Aussies coming through, aren't there?
Now, the team managers will have noted 1 or 2 performances here, like, of course, Will Walker, the new under-23 national champion. They'll be looking at him for the future. And, of course, Matthew Lloyd, the man who fell off yesterday. He had a very hard time, but he was in the leading group when he crashed. And I do know that certain team managers, like Hendrik Redant, are certainly looking at Australian riders for the future.
Well, this race, of course, being in the high summer here in South Australia and the hottest for many years, these boys are now flying back into Europe to start the international season there. Boy, are they going to notice a difference in the weather or what? We hope you've enjoyed the coverage on this occasion. For Paul Sherwen, I'm Phil Liggett saying goodbye for now.